Our lesson for this morning is the story of Ruth, Naomi, and Orpah. And it is the story that is told, and I'm going to use some of the meaning of the names of the people and the places because it's important to hear it in that context. You sort of get a little bit of the irony of the story, and you also get a little bit of the foreshadowing of trouble ahead. This is the first 17 verses of the first chapter of Ruth. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a certain man in Bethlehem, and the name of Bethlehem means the house of bread. A certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live in the country of Moab, he and his wife and 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, which means, "My God is king." And the name of his wife is Naomi, which means pleasant. And the name of his 2 sons were Mahlon, which means sickness, and Chilion, whose name means destruction. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judea. They went into the country of Moab and remained there. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They took Moabite wives. The name of one was Orpah. Her name means back of the neck. And the name of the other, Ruth. Her name means friend. When they have lived there for about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, so that the woman was left without her sons or her husband. Then Naomi started to return with her daughters-in-law from the land of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had had consideration for God's people and had given them food. So she set out from that place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each of you, in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way. I'm too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was a hope for me, even if I should have a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, it has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me." And then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So Naomi said, "See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you or to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There will I be buried. May the Lord do thus and so to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Almost 30 years ago, on the 45th wedding anniversary for my parents, my family got together and bought them a very special present. They sent them on a trip to Europe. They had never been there before. They were so excited. They got to tour England and France and Germany and Italy. They made lots of friends. They enjoyed themselves. They took lots of pictures, and they brought back lots of stories. One of those stories is the kind of story that as a grown child, it makes you worry about your parents. You almost want to parent your parent, if you know what I mean. If you've ever been on one of these tours, you know that you fly there and then you move around the continent in bus from one place to another. They would spend the night in some town, and then the next day they would have an excursion or maybe a day trip by bus. And then they would drive to the next destination, and so on and so on. Sometimes the places are so close you might go from one country to the next. Every so often, they would get a day off. The bus driver got a day off. That's what that meant. Well, on their free day, fearlessly, my parents were feeling adventuresome and decided to venture out on their own. They were staying in London in the Penta Hotel, and they looked at a map and they realized that they had an underground or subway station. This is what they call it, the tube or the underground. A subway station right across the street from their hotel. And they saw that if they took that train over several stops, they could go to a museum. And so they thought, we can go to the museum, have lunch there, walk around, get to know the place, and then take the train back. What could possibly go wrong? Well, they went. They had a lovely time at the museum and the lunch and they're walking around. And they got on the train. They got on the right subway and they got off at the right station. But when they got out of the train car, they looked around and they didn't recognize where they were. They were feeling lost. Now this is the peak hour, right? So there's a lot of people trying to go in and out of the subway. The only way I can figure it is that this train station must have been so large that the outgoing and incoming trains must have just arrived in a different spot. The point being that they were lost. So they started asking people, and they weren't getting much help. Did I mention Mom and Dad didn't speak much English? That was getting in the way. Well, my dad went up to this young man, some guy maybe in his 20s, really tall, big muscular guy, and he went up to him and in English says to him or asks him, "Where is the Penta Hotel?" And so this young man starts telling him where it is. Only he quickly realizes my dad is not understanding what he's saying. So he just motions, "Follow me," right? This guy is so tall, he's head and shoulders above the crowd. So they're snaking their way through all the other subway riders who are waiting for their train to go back home. Takes him through the crowd, down a set of stairs, and down a long deserted hallway. And Mom's scared. And she grabs a hold of my dad and in Spanish says to him, "I'm scared." And my dad says to her, "Don't worry, he looks like a good young man." They keep walking, and then they make a sharp turn, and now they're at the foot of another set of stairs. These are going up. And the young man just points up and goes, "Penta Hotel." To which my mom replies, "Oh, thank you, God." And then my dad, being who he was, dug in his pocket and tried to give the young man some money. The young man was embarrassed. And my dad was insistent because he had given them help. And so the young man, finally agrees and takes a bill or two that my dad was offering him. And he begins to make the 5 or so minute walk back to his place where he was waiting for his train to go home. And as they take the stairs up, my mom asks my dad, my mom thought my dad was way too trusting, naive even. And she asks him, "Weren't you scared?" And my dad said, "No. He reminded me of someone I used to work with years ago." And as they come up on the street level, sure enough, there's the Penta Hotel. My dad says to my mom, "I think that young man was like an angel that God sent to us just for this time, just for this moment." I don't know very much about this young man. I don't know his name. I don't know anything about him. I don't know why he would help my mom and dad. Did he feel sorry for them? We've lived in big cities before. We know what tourists are. There's no nice way of saying it. Tourists are annoying. They always are going where they shouldn't be going. They're always asking questions. They get in the way. I can't imagine what it would be like to live in London, a city that gets millions of visitors every year. And here's this young man literally going out of his way to take mom and dad to where they needed to go. And I wonder if when he looked at mom and dad, he decided to help them because he may have thought, they remind me of my grandma and my grandpa. See, generally, we worry about helping people who are inside our circles, inside our family circle, inside our circle of friends. But the test comes when it is someone who is outside of that circle that is in trouble. How does our care extend to them? Does it extend to them at all? I think about that young man helping mom and dad when he clearly didn't have to. I think about my dad. Trusting this young man, maybe naively, but really trusting him. And all because he reminded him of somebody he once knew. And that young man welcomed my mom and dad for all of 5 or 10 minutes into his family. He did what I would expect family to do for one another. He welcomed them into his family. Real acts of compassion, true acts of ministry, are often the direct result of when we stretch those circles of relationship, of family, of friendship. When we stretch the definition and we include now someone inside of our circle. Now that stretching is truly risky. It's risky for the one who is welcoming, for the one who's being welcomed. It requires faith and courage for both. While some might say, why should I help you? I hardly know you. There might be somebody who will be reaching out their hand as if they're about to grasp the hand of their sister or grandfather. That's the story of Ruth. The story of Ruth defines for me what faithful and courageous ministry is all about. Because really at its core, it's a story about strangers who are clinging to one another, not in fear, although that certainly was there, but in a deeply courageous effort to claim each other as family, to stretch the boundaries of what family was supposed to be. So that family had started that ill-fated journey to another country, an enemy country as a matter of fact. The house of bread, Bethlehem, was out of bread, and they had to go somewhere else to eat. And so they immigrated to this other country. And first there's the death of the father, and then the two sons get married to women from that country, and then the sons die. And then we have 3 widows who are just hanging on to dear life to each other. It is then that Naomi hears that the famine is ended back in Bethlehem, that there's bread again in the house of bread. And so she decides that it's time to go home. And Naomi brings her 2 daughters-in-law with her. The 3 of them are making this journey which would take them through the desert. This is a dangerous journey. And Naomi comes to her senses and sacrificially says to them, girls, go home. Go home where you will have a chance. Go home where you can start over. Go home. And they cling to her, and they are saying to her, home is here. And Naomi gets angry with them. Like that's the only way they're going to hear her. She gets angry with them. Do I still have sons in my womb for you? And Orpah, who loved her mother-in-law, receives the love that her mother-in-law was giving her, which is an opportunity to return. But not so Ruth. Ruth was convinced that her place was with Naomi. Ruth was convinced that Naomi would die in the journey by herself. In the desert, she would die. She says, wherever you go, I'm going to go. Your people are going to be my people. Your God is going to be my God. Wherever you go, I will be. And if you die in the middle of the journey, well, they can bury us together because I am not leaving you. We're stuck together. Ruth was claiming Naomi. Naomi was claiming Ruth as family. When a culture of the time didn't ask them for that. The culture of the time said, you're done. You don't have a connection anymore. We might think that's odd, that because the husbands died, all of a sudden they don't have a connection to the mother-in-law, but that's what the culture expected at the time. But Ruth would not have it. We also face cultural expectations ourselves, even if we are not aware of those expectations. What I think Ruth and Naomi are showing us is that rather than keep people at arm's length, protecting ourselves maybe, or protecting things the way they are and the way we like them, we are called to claim one another as family. Because then something incredibly powerful will take place. Surprising blessings will appear. And this is more than just being nice. Anybody can be nice. This is about a courageous kindness that really literally stretches us and stretches the definition of who our circle, our family is. This coming year in 2020, we as a congregation are going to be talking a lot about our sense of call, our sense of vocation. We are going to be exploring this in part thanks to a grant that we received. It is a program called the Myrtle Collaboration, and I'll share more details with you along the way here in the next few months. But that grant is asking us to question ourselves, to what is God calling me? What is my vocation? So we can think about it in those terms, but also to what is God calling me? I really appreciate that the story of Ruth is teaching us that followers of God cling to one another as we journey. And that part of our call is to claim each other, to go out of our way to claim one another, not just to be nice, but really to be in relationship. I mean, I think our call as a congregation through its life has been to reach out to community. This congregation has a history of service and of generosity in this community and abroad. We have helped launch ministries which continue to this very day. Ministries that are not even under the umbrella of the church any longer. We have taken stances on issues of justice and going against discrimination and racism. We have volunteered our time to support and to serve people in the community, whether through the church or in agencies in the community. And all this we have done because we are called, and we're not done. Part of what I think this story reminds us is that our connection to each other then isn't about a transaction of I have, you don't have, let me give you. But what that young man did at the subway station, which is for the next 5 minutes, your family. For the next 10 minutes, your family. For the next 10 years, your family. I celebrate that history of the church, and I celebrate that challenge that Ruth gives us with her example. Because Ruth is calling us to expand our circle, to reach out to a community and to claim it as our family. Ruth and Naomi call us to be one people and to serve one God. Ruth and Naomi and Orpah call us to cling to each other against the forces that divide us, to keep the forces that keep the powerless at the margins, the forces that prevent true community to form across the whole spectrum, economic, social, racial. We trust in God, and widening the circle and redefining our notion of family, we are being faithful. We claim one another. Your people, my people. Your God, my God. Thanks be to God for God's word for us. Amen.